Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Judson Memorial Church. It is so wonderful to see the folks I see live in this space. Hello to everybody out there in our Zoom watch party and in the future. My name is Micah. I'm one of the ministers here at Judson. My pronouns are he and they. And I am honored to serve this congregation along with Reverend Dr. Valerie Holly, our associate minister, and Reverend Julie Johnson Staples, who is our transition minister and who is joining us in the Zoom watch party so that we can have a pastor in all of the spaces as we enter this service focusing on transition. So get excited. Our transition committee and Reverend Julie and Reverend Holly have been hard at work creating a beautiful worship service where we can continue to move through this time of transition with creativity and enthusiasm. I cannot wait for it. But before we get there, we always begin our services here with announcements. So if you have something to share, do as John is doing and walk to that side, or do as Mark is doing and walk to that side. When you get up to the podium, go ahead and take your mask off so that we can hear you and see your beautiful mouth, and then put your mask back on as you see me doing as you step away. Mark, go ahead.
Hello everyone, my name is Mark and my pronouns are he, him. I am a member of the newly formed Health and Wellness Committee. Think of it as the What on Earth Are We Doing with COVID Committee. In case if any of you weren't aware, the city has a rubric of severity of viral transmission levels, and this week we transitioned from medium to high. The committee was also formed this week and we decided to take some measures to address that. There are going to be some changes in masking policy starting today, and you'll be hearing more about it in the coming weeks. We ask that if you're going to be in the meeting room, the only kind of masks that are acceptable are KN95s, N95s, or KN94s. If anyone's wearing a surgical mask or a cloth mask, that won't be compliant. Sorry about that. We do have some masks on the back table over there. So if anyone wants to get one, feel free, so we have them freely available to you. And of course, it's the first Sunday we are rolling this out, but we do ask going forward, you have a higher quality mask. We will have plenty available. So if you're on the subway and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm in my surgical mask or my pretty floral mask, and I didn't remember, we have you covered. Don't worry about it, you don't have to go back home. Also, coffee hour will no longer be in the meeting room. It's going to be outside. So, unless you're up here, always keep your mask on, always have it cover your nose and your mouth. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Good morning, I'm John Underdog. I want to invite everyone here to the West Village Chorale's spring concert. It's taking place here at 5 o'clock. We are doing Rachmaninoff all-night vigil. It's going to be wonderful. Our space does an incredible job to enhance, I'd like to say, an already wonderful sound. Also, Sarah Croft is going to be singing with us and singing a solo, and she's stunning. Tickets will be $30 at the door. We have a pretty full crowd, but we still have some room for more. I really welcome everyone to be here. I do ask a little bit of housekeeping. At the end of services today, if you can keep the chairs in place, it's just one less thing that we need to do, and bring chairs back onto the floor for when we set up for our audience. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Judson. My name is Suresh Dinan. As Mark mentioned, coffee hour will be outside. When you go to get your food, coffee, keep your mask on, but then you can take it back off for everyone's safety. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ruby Rims, pronouns thou, Mary, Miss Thing. I am very proud of two things. Number one, I have a new book has come out. It's called Legends of Drag, Queens of a Certain Age, whatever that means. And yes, it's a gorgeous book that was put out by two beautiful young men. One is a photographer and the other one is a florist. And there are 80 different drag queens from all over the United States. And yes, I am. Thank you. And my second announcement is, some of you have heard, Keen, you should be proud of me. You should be very proud of me. As much as sometimes we have differences, but this time you're proud of me. I am running to be a delegate to the Judicial Nominating Convention in the 75th Assembly District. So if you live in Chelsea or in Hell's Kitchen, you can vote for me. But you cannot vote for Ruby Rims. You have to vote for Robert W. Firth. Think of Colin, forget the Colin, put in Robert. Thank you.
Good morning. So yesterday I attended New York Theological Seminary's commencement or graduation. It was at First Corinthian Baptist Church, FCBC. And the reason I'm getting up, what they did was our 2022, one of the class of 2022 graduates was our own Nabu Gogo. Most of you may not have known his first name, but his name, so he graduated yesterday with his master's in divinity, and I was there for it. Yet the other thing that happened is, because it was the first time New York Theological Seminary has had its graduation in 3 years in person, they honored the 2020 class and the 2021 class. And I say that because in 2020, we started out in person, and then the end of that spring semester, we were virtual. Well, Lopez Joel Detruch, who most of you remember as a CM, graduated in 2020 with the President's Award. So I want to acknowledge him. I told him yesterday I wanted to acknowledge him, because we didn't get to acknowledge him because they didn't walk, and we weren't here for 2020. So I told Joel I would talk about him and Go-Go. So I'd like to just congratulate our two graduates from New York Theological Seminary for the work that they have been doing. Thank you. I'm sorry. You know, I just said to Micah, one of the reasons I wanted to do it, because in 2014, I got president, and Michael also got an award from Union, and that's when Michael Ellick was up here, and he said, oh, they got to tell it. And Grace told Michael, Reverend Michael, well, they can't talk about themselves. So Michael Ellick walked up here and talked about Micah and I. So that's why I wanted to acknowledge them.
And with that, let's take a deep breath. Nice. I like seeing you all take a deep breath. Let's go deeper into our hour of worship together with a prelude from Rethel Bean across the digital airwaves. Enjoy.
Went down last October in a pouring driving rain. The captain, he'd been drinking, and the mate, he felt no pain. Too close to 3 Mile Rock, and she was dealt a mortal blow, and the Mary Ellen Carter settled low. There were just us 5 aboard her when she finally was awash. We worked like hell to save her, all heedless of the cost. And the groan she gave as she went down, it caused us to proclaim that the Mary Ellen Carter would rise again. Well, the owners wrote her off. Not a nickel would they spend. She gave 20 years of service, boys, and met her sorry end. But insurance paid the loss to us, so let her rest below. Then they laughed at us and said we had to go. But we talked to her all winter, sometimes around the clock. She's worth $250,000, afloat and at the dock. And with every jar that hit the bar, we swore we would remain and make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Rise again, rise again, that her name not be lost to the knowledge of men. All those who loved her best and were with her till the end will make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. All spring now we've been with her on a barge lent by a friend. 3 dives a day in a hard hat suit, twice I've had the bends. Thank God it's only 60 feet and the currents here are slow, or I'd never have the strength to go below. We passed her rents and stopped her vents, dog hatch and porthole down, put cables to her fore and aft and girded her around. Tomorrow noon we hit the air and then take up the strain and make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Rise again, rise again, that her name not be lost to the knowledge of men. All those who knew her best and were with her till the end will make the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Oh, we couldn't leave her there, you see, to crumble in the scale. She'd saved our lives so many times, riding through the gale, and the laughing drunken rats who left her to a sorry grave, they won't be laughing in another day. And you to whom adversity has dealt the final blow, with smiling bastards lying to you everywhere you go, turn to and put out all your strength of arm and heart and brain, and like the Mary Ellen Carter rise again. Rise again, rise again, though your heart it be broken, your life about to end. No matter what you've lost, be it a home, a love, a friend, like the Mary Ellen Carter rise again.
We gather today on
the ancient testimony.
We gather today on physical space that stands on the unceded land of the Munsee Lenape tribe of the Lenni Lenape people. We acknowledge these people of the Stony Country and decry the unjust taking of their Lenape hoking. We acknowledge the unfulfilled promises of U.S. treaties granting land access and the still unresolved traumas of forced migration. We acknowledge and affirm Native values and Indigenous cultures while holding space for the myriad authentic and post-colonial Indian expressions of faith in life. To remember well and move beyond ceremony to reciprocity, we prayerfully commit to better understand our place on this land and in our histories, to honor those people who still live on and steward this land, to strive to make meaningful connections between the original people and the land, and to counteract all harm to original peoples that perpetuates a narrative of erasure.
The call to worship. We lift up our eyes to the hills. From where will our help come? Our help comes from God, who made heaven and earth. Let us join our hearts to worship in spirit and in truth. And please rise, if you can, to sing our opening song. Rise up, ye saints of God.
The ancient testimony, John chapter 5, verses 1 to 9 in the New American Standard Bible Translation. After these things, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now in Jerusalem, by the sheep gate, there is a pool, which in Hebrew is called Bethesda, that has 5 porticos. In these porticos lay a multitude of those who were sick, blind, limping, or paralyzed. Jesus, upon seeing the man lying there and knowing that he had already been in that condition for a long time, said to him, "Do you want to get well?" The sick man answered, "Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I am coming, another steps down before me." Jesus said to him, "Get up. Pick up your pallet and walk." Immediately, the man became well and picked up his pallet and began to walk. Now it was a Sabbath on that day.
The modern testimony is from Angels in America, a gay fantasia on national themes, Part 2, Perestroika. This disease will be the end of many of us, but not nearly all. And the dead will be commemorated and will struggle on with the living. And we are not going away. We won't die secret deaths anymore. The world only spins forward. We will be citizens. The time has come. Bye now. You are fabulous creatures, each and every one, and I bless you. More life. The great work begins.
Would you please rise in body and/or spirit, and let's wade in the water together.
Good morning, Judson. It is an honor to be with you this morning and to offer this sermon from my new home on the shore of the Great Lake Michigan. May God bless these words and guide our understanding. Do you want to get well? Jesus asks this question of a disabled man lying by the healing waters of the Bethesda pool in ancient Jerusalem. It's a powerful question, and it echoes through the ages. The answer may seem obvious to those of us with chronic, debilitating conditions or life-threatening illnesses. Of course I do. But this man does not give that answer. Instead, he tells Jesus why he has not been healed in the 38 years that he's remained on his pallet. What was he thinking? Maybe he was startled by Jesus' question and did not think before he spoke. After all, he did not ask for Jesus to notice him. Jesus approached him first. Even after the two had spoken, the story records no eagerness on his part to receive this gift of healing. Jesus just ups and heals him anyway, without hesitation. Rise, he says, take up your pallet and walk. And he does. It is Transition Sunday here at Judson, and this is our sacred text for today, a beautiful and striking story to inform our own transition efforts. And this morning I ask us all, myself included, do we want to get well? At Judson we have learned much during this year of transition, and it has been a year since our last senior minister, the Reverend Donna Scopper, departed. Since then, we have had resounding reaffirmations of the strong spirit and giftedness of Judson's congregation, staff, and ministry. We have also discovered some issues, operational, financial, and programmatic, that if unaddressed, will threaten our stability. Our transition report and the many responses to it show us areas in which we need some healing, we need to get well. So now we can ask ourselves, how much do we want to get well? It's a question for our hearts and souls as well as our minds. And the question becomes much more complex when asked not of an individual, but of a group, such as our own beloved community. It makes me think of an old Judson bulletin cover quoting Oscar Wilde, "The truth is rarely pure and never simple." While planning this service, the Reverend Julie and our committee members were asked for ideas for a modern testimony. Without hesitating, Matthew Nelson suggested the quote from Tony Kushner's Perestroika that Jenny read so beautifully. What made Matthew think of this? And what does Tony Kushner intend when he has his protagonist, Prior Walter, say, "The great work begins"? Perestroika is the second part of the two-part work, Angels in America, a dense, complex, and beautiful depiction of the AIDS crisis in the 1980s and 90s. And in it, we see how intimately intertwined the AIDS pandemic was with the deep roots of American homophobia. It also shows this deadly pandemic giving rise to a new kind of gay activism, agonizing struggle, and a promising awakening. In Perestroika's last scene, Prior Walter, who has AIDS, appears with three other central characters at the Bethesda fountain in Central Park. When Prior Walter, in his role as a Latter-day Prophet, speaks of the great work beginning, it is both a benediction and a charge, a call to action. I think of Judson's traditional benediction, "Now the service begins," also a call to action. Maybe Matthew had that in mind. He knows that we have some hard work ahead, and I know he believes it is great work. as do all of us on the transition committee. So like the man on the pallet by the Bethesda pool and the group gathered at the Bethesda fountain, let us in these moments reflect on what it means for us to rise up and be well. To embrace the great work of this moment at Judson, let us admit that it is hard work. And one major way that it is and will be hard is because we are called upon to look beyond, to transcend the Judson we are now in order to become the Judson we can be. I see at least 4 ways we need to do this: to look beyond and transcend the present for a better future. First, our work of change is group work, so we must transcend needless individualism. Despite how much we long for one or another to tell us plainly what to do, no one of us will have all the answers. It is hard work to find our path forward together with all the listening, probing, and exploring involved. We need gifts of patience, openness, and self-awareness. All that nurtures our relationships with each other already will help. Think about our choir for a minute. They are a great example. It's not been an easy 2 years for them, but they persist and make beautiful, inspirational music that enhances our worship. And like any group of musicians, they must collaborate, cooperate, share the stage, and harmonize. They know how to work together, so let them inspire us. Second, our work must strengthen the roles we play at Judson, requiring us to look beyond and transcend personality. Don't get me wrong, we have glorious personalities at Judson, colorful, outspoken, bold, entertaining, and I could go on. At this time, however, and with no less love for this richness, let us focus on the roles we play here and play them well. They are vital to the renewal of our organization. Our personalities may help or hinder this work. The roles we play and the responsibilities we carry are crucial. Whether we are a board member, a committee chair, a greeter, a coffee hour host, or a combination of all these, or even a preacher. I think of Dr. Valerie Holly's prayer before she preaches. She asks God to help her get Valerie out of the way so that you can hear a divine word through her. Let's be inspired by her example. And third, let us transcend our congregation's traditional culture, looking beyond our familiar ways, our way of life at Judson, how we do things. This may be one of the hardest challenges we face because so much pulls us back into familiar ways. But think about it a minute. Look at the changes we've made in the last 2 years just to keep having a worship service each week. We have already been rising to the challenges of this awful pandemic, changing and changing again so that we can continue to worship even when we cannot gather together in person. It wasn't easy, and it still isn't easy. But the record is clear, we can do this. So let us now expand our capacity to embrace other changes that we have never considered before. And finally, let us transcend our excuses, really our resistance, and hold ourselves to account for making change as best we can. Our friend on the pallet at the Bethesda pool can be our touchstone. When we find ourselves making excuses for why we have to just lie here and not get up, why it is just too hard, let us look around for the help we need and get on our feet. We are bound to make some mistakes, So let us be candid about that and explore the reasons for both our successes and our failures so that we can do better and continue to rise up. With all this hard work, we also need to cultivate the hope that we can get well, that we can rise up. Even with Judson's rich resources, a beautiful building, gifted congregants, amazing staff, and a powerful mission and vision, our hope cannot be rooted only in ourselves. It may well be time to deepen our sense of what it means that we are a church. I was around to witness our previous 2 senior minister searches in 2005 and in 1993. In both cases, when Judson wrote its congregational profile, that is, its self-description for those interested in being the senior minister, there was a discussion about whether to use the word church as an identifier. Was it too stuffy? Did it align us with the religious right wing? We also debated whether to use the word Christian. Each time, Judson decided that both church and Christian were right. Does this seem like a small thing? It is not. At this time of transition and discernment, we would do well to carefully consider not whether, but how we are a church. All indications from our survey data point to the central importance of worship at Judson. Let's own it. We are a questioning, progressive church with a congregation from diverse religious backgrounds. A single theological perspective rarely defines us, and we sometimes define ourselves religiously more by what we are against than what we do hold sacred. There is plenty of room here for us to grow. And there is also plenty of evidence that Judson folk gather to engage in ministry that leads us beyond ourselves, that aspires to more than we know we can do without help, divine help. Judson could never have been what it has been, never have shone so brightly or stood so boldly if we were anything less than a church. Our hope for healing, for getting well, ultimately points beyond us to the power that is beyond mere human understanding, to God. In some ways, all healing is miraculous, requiring more than is humanly possible. Thus it was for the man on the pallet, thus it is for us. That fellow was healed pretty much in spite of himself. So let us cultivate the hope that we too may be lifted up, even as we do the hard work to rise and rise again. Amen.
Thank you so much, Reverend Bean, for that inspiring message. We feel you in this space. Thanks for bringing some Chicago to Judson as well. And now is our moment in the service where you have a very concrete invitation to participate in this great work. You have an opportunity now to offer your financial gifts to the wellness of this congregation, our programs, the work that we do in the world, and there are multiple ways that you can give. You will find them listed in your bulletin. You can give by check, you can give by Venmo, you can give online. Whichever way you are able to give, please know that no gift is too small and no gift is too big. So thank you. And so now as we welcome your financial gifts, let us enjoy a creative gift. You already heard Reverend Bean celebrating them, so please welcome to the Judson stage, the Judson Choir. Let the river run, let the river run. 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 Let the river run, let the river. Let the river run. Let all the dreamers wake the nation. Come on to Jerusalem. Let the river run, let the river run. Let the river run, let the river run. Silver cities rise, the morning lights, the streets that meet them, and sirens call them on with. Let the river run, let the river run, let the river run, let the river run. It's asking for the taking, trembling, shaking. My heart is aching. Coming to the edge, running on the water, coming to the water, sons and daughters. We the great and small, stand on a star and blaze a trail of desire, desire through the darkening. Let the river run, 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 let the river, let the river run, let the river run, let the river, let the river run, let all the dreamers wake the nation. Come to Jerusalem. Let the river run, let the river run, let the river run, let the river run. Silver cities rise, the morning lights, the streets that meet them, and silence calls them on with. Let the river run, let the river run, let the river run, let the river run. It's asking for the taking, trembling, shaking. My heart is aching. Come to the we, the great and small, stand on a star and blaze a trail of desire, desire through the darkening. Let the river run, 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 let the river run.
Can we give the choir and Hinko another hand, please? Wonderful. Wow. Let the river run. Amen. Okay, it's time for benediction. I know I'm not the Holly that preached. I got that. So, Reverend Holly Bean, I don't even know how to do this prayer because that was quite impressive, Reverend Holly Bean. I just want to tell you that. And Reverend Holly, I took some notes. for this benediction. I'm going to land on 2 places for your benediction. Here where we're going. The Mother, Father, Everything God. Lord, we were listening to Reverend Bean, Reverend Holly's message. And when she got to number 4, she talked about hope. God, we thank you for hope right now. We thank you for the things that we're doing in this church. So lovely. We thank you that we are continuing to put things in place every Sunday. As she says, it's hard work. And yet, God, we thank you for hope today. And we thank you for love and the commitment of Judson Memorial Church to continue to do something and go forward and pick up the mantle with God's help, with hope and with love. Amen. Oh, and now our closing hymn is found on page 4, One More Day, if you can sing. Thank you.